We've got another VCR to look at. This time it's back to top loading. I'm not sure why, but it is the continuation in the series. We looked at NV-250, 280. Now this time we've got an NV-300, and I've got the service manual, which is interesting because it's got this supplementary which says that there's mechanical and circuits are changed for improvement and performance and productivity, and there's an N on the suffix of the model number to indicate that. So maybe this is an improved one. We'll have to have a look at the model number on the back. So I thought that was interesting. And here they give you all new schematics for these improved models, but I don't think they give you any actual specific details on what was improved. Well, not that I could see on a quick look through it. Maybe they changed lots of things. Maybe this model was around for a long time. Looking at these numbers here, it's probably from 1982. Pretty old. So it's a top loader. It's got lots of features though. Cue and review, one-touch recording, picture sharpness control, auto rewind, so once it gets to the end of the tape, elegant compact size, quartz 14-day timer, 8-mode remote control. Oh, I'm not sure if I have the remote control for this, but it's a wired one again. Aluminium die-cast chassis, quartz direct drive motor. Let's have a look at the front of it. It's a bit in the dark, but anyway, that's what's happening today. So the NV-300, not the NV-340 model, which is the same service manual. I'm not sure what the differences are there. Anyway, we've got the 300 electronic eject, not mechanical like we had on that other top loader. Normal tape transport controls. There's the tracking control down there. There's a moist indicator. There's the remote control connector. And interestingly, on this one, it's got the clock and timer controls are just exposed. They're not behind a flap. And there is a flap though, which reveals the video input and the selection, whether it's running on the tuner or the video in here. Front video in with camera pause input. And then the tuner controls for setting the channels is on the front here too. Interesting. And the power switch is a latching push button. Let's switch it on now, see if it does anything. Yeah. Oh, so it's already on? Maybe this doesn't work. Supposedly it's on, according to that, but you can't set the clock. It's not in timer record mode. Weird. It does eject though. Alright, let's have a look on the back of it. So on the back, there's a panel here with the RF in and out, the audio and video output, and the selector for color or test signal. And we can see there, it's not the N versions of this. Or is that the N? So that's an A model. I don't know. I guess that's the N. Maybe it is the new model. I thought the N would have been really close to the model number. But yeah, maybe that means we do have the new fancy one, the upgraded one with better productivity. Better productivity. That must mean that it's more efficient to manufacture, I guess. Or easier to manufacture. Alright, let's take a look inside it and then we'll try it out. It's one of those older ones that has a plastic top cover on it, like we saw on one of the other ones. It was the NV-2000 and the NV-7200. Those other top loading models had a plastic enclosure like this. Let me get this out. Yes, good. It's good when you can get it off without having to eject it, because if there's a problem and you can't eject it, then you can have an issue there. Oh, it's quite empty. Must be all on one board on the bottom. Still not sure what the deal is with the power switch. Oh, it seems to work now though. Probable that there's a problem. That, like all these things, are suffering from leaked, dried out capacitors, and maybe there's a little threshold detector thing to do with switching the power on and off, which took a little bit of time to warm up. We'll stick this tape husk in there and get rid of this cover so we can see what's going on underneath it. So they said this was a quartz something motor, didn't they? Quartz direct drive motor. Doesn't look very direct drive, because isn't that the capstan motor there? Which would be belt driven? Weird. Maybe they're talking about the head. Pretty good. Fast forward, rewind. Yeah, it just needs that turning before it will carry on, otherwise it errors out. To play mode. Oh, it didn't quite get there. Wonder if there's a loading motor belt slipping. Looks like that's the loading motor there. Probably, because it didn't have quite the welly to bring that in. You can hear something slipping. Alright, we'll have to take a look underneath then and see what's going on, if we can sort that out to get it into play mode properly, so we can try it. The back tension band, the felt band thing has fallen off. Classic problem, isn't it? It might still work enough though. You can see there, it's just sitting there, so it might still work like that. But yeah, it's not the best. Alright, let's tip this, turn it off, tip it upside down, and we'll take a look from the bottom at the circuit board and see if we can work out what's slipping there. Presumably just a belt. Wondering if those... I think we should do something good and just screw those ground wires back onto that so that they don't accidentally get tangled up and short out somewhere when we turn it on next. Something's a bit out of balance there. Okay, look at that. Some sort of power regulator thing down there, which is warm just from that short time. That's two boards. Seems to have some either repairs or modifications. Yeah, it's been repaired. I wonder if I did that, because it looks like the type of wire that I have lying around. You see there's a crack there from that screw. Is it the wire? Yeah. I had... See, that it looks like telephone wire with the stripes on it, but it's not single core. It's a multi-stranded wire. It's flexible. And I had some like that way back, which came from some intercom things that had these quite thick multi-core cables going to them. Some kind of office intercom thing. I had a whole bunch of them that had... yeah, that cable going to a big multi-pin plug, which I guess went on the wall to some cable system. Don't know exactly. Come from a skip bin, as you do. Rummage in there, find the good things. So maybe that's something I did a long time ago, like 20 years ago. I wonder if it's been dropped. Or do you think it got opened, like tried to open these boards up without undoing that screw and it cracked? I guess we have to undo those two. It's weird seeing two screws close together like that. I don't know if that's red or not. Now we have to take the front off as well, because these clips are covering it, and I think, yeah, the front panel boards are part of this assembly. The clip is broken. Okay, now that reveals more screws we have to undo, and then there'll be presumably screws, or is it clips from the front? I think it's just clips. Still not sure about that one. Oh no, gotta watch out for the cable coming out the back. So it's one board, but it's got a notch there where the counter goes. It swings out. Now there's a whole bunch of clips to undo. I feel like it's leaning on something. It's just because the chassis doesn't have an edge around it, because the edges go with the lid, which we took off. Okay, so you don't have to undo that screw there. It must be holding something else that comes with the board. I can get it into a good state where we can inspect this. It's too unwieldy. So there's the main board, hinged out. It doesn't go the whole way. We can see there, we can see a number of things. We can see there's leaked capacitors by the look of it. It looks very messy down there. We can also see that that screw was holding that heatsink down. Quite a big plate there. Also video signal coming into there. Ground wire presumably. Quite thick and solid. Yeah, it's being held by that wire. Is that tied onto something? Oh, I think it is hooked around something on the other side here. I think that's what the problem is. Yeah. Oh. Okay, there's a brittle clip that snapped off. Now the wire won't be held. Yeah, look at that, and it opens up the whole way now. A small plug undid. Okay, now that hinges out the whole way, we can see the whole main board there. That's the power supply stuff. Video circuitry. Is that audio, I think? Looks like audio stuff there. That is all the video stuff. Chrominance. Then there's servo, the motor driver there, which will be for the head drum motor. And then this will be the system control part. And then the tuner was part of this front board. That I think is wiring all the way back to this board here, which would be the tuner. Probably those wires there will be the audio and video signal coming off of it. I think that whole thing there was the one that went through to the front. And then there's probably power, and then there's the RF signal coming across in a coax there. Okay, so I suspect the problem we had with it not entering play mode is the belt down there. The little plastic cover over the transformer has cracked off. Everything in this seems to be brittle and old and worn out. Now I think the issue will be with either that belt or that belt. That one doesn't seem to be in very good shape. Can we get this to stay up? The whole chassis has been quite broken and it's been glued back together. I wonder if that's also something I did. Maybe the whole thing's been dropped, and that's why there was the broken traces on the circuit board. Anyway, I want to see what's the slippiest part. I think it's this one here. I wonder if we should try cleaning that a bit, just to see if we can bring it to life for a short time so we can play with it. And I'm trying to find the screwdriver which I used to prop up the board. Alright, let's take this cover off so we can get the belt out. I need to unplug that. Now, let's pull that out, and we'll get this one out as well. And we'll just give those a little bit of a hosing down with isopropyl alcohol and see if we can bring a little bit of life back into them so we can get this thing to thread up and into play mode. We've got to check it out, see if it works. Right, I've given these belts a clean up. Let's see if that made any difference. We shouldn't put that one on first because we need to put that lower down one, don't we? The little tiny one. That feels much better. Good, that's good. Okay, let's put this thing back in. Guess that's important. Stops the wire from touching the belt. Plug in that. Okay, I think we can close this up now and try it out. Okay, that's mostly clipped in now. It's very rickety. I think because the chassis doesn't have the side bits on it like the newer and other models have, that it's quite flimsy when it doesn't have its lid on. The top cover is not on, which now that the plastic's all old and brittle, it's a bit of a... it's gonna fall apart easily. Alright, let's see if this does anything now, or more things than it was doing before. Oh, pressing the wrong button because it's got the TV VCR select switch at the top and the operate button is below it. Try with the tape husk. Look at that. Enters play mode, no worries. It's got minimal take up, but it might be enough. Let's turn on the video thing. Now I've got a new tape. Well, it's not new, just a new for us to play with, since we wrecked that other one last time by getting it fully chewed up. So let's try it. Fast forward it in a little bit. Rewind. Seems pretty good. Got a mechanical tape counter on this machine. Still going good there. Let's see if it plays. It did for a little while. Just try adjusting the tracking here. Maybe this tape's not tracked very well, or it's on the... or this machine is out of alignment. Well, the capture only works when the picture is bad. If I adjust the tracking so that the picture is good, the capture doesn't see it. I don't know why, but anyway, the picture is pretty reasonable on the monitor here. So it does seem to work more or less. Now that's review mode. Oh no, the take-up of that is no good. So yeah, the picture is reasonable. I guess there's a pause somewhere. Can't see what the buttons are because I don't have the front panel on it anymore. There you go, pause. Yeah, it's a bit rumpty. Yeah, the rewind mode's not very good. The review mode. So it's sort of working. It's more or less working. If some bits were tidied up a bit, tuned up a bit. Probably some caps replaced. Probably the head cleaned. Maybe the back tension's a bit iffy since the back tension band has come off. Maybe the capstan belt. Yeah, that might be a problem there. We didn't check that belt, did we? But a resting finger on the pinch roller there, you can make it stop quite easily. So maybe that's no good. Right. What I want to do is try something from the service manual that we haven't tried before. Oh yeah, it wound it in, just not very enthusiastically. So I want to check the torques and the brakes by following the instructions in the service manual. Since now we got some torque meters, torque gauges, we need to find the mechanical adjustment procedures. I think they're not in this supplement, are they? That's just, it's got other stuff in it. The mechanical adjustment procedure, confirming the pressure force of that at the moment of tape stop. Okay, we can try that as well. So I think I've got a gauge for that. So it says while put a fan gauge in that little thing and pull, pull on the pinch roller arm there and check that you get 1600 plus or minus 350 grams. I think I've got some of those gauges, so we could try that perhaps. This, the torque gauge. But the problem is I don't have an adapter to fit the tape reels, but I've come up with hopefully a solution to that. The tape that got destroyed last time, I pulled all the tape off of it and got the reel out, and since that can fit on the spindle, I was thinking I can turn this into an adapter to adapt to the torque gauge, which needs something with a shaft coming out of it. And so I've snapped off all the excess plastic, so we got this thing. A little bit disappointing, because I thought once you pulled the plastic off to remove this little dimple thing, that will have a dent under there that I can use to center a drill, but it doesn't. It sticks up. So I'm going to try and drill that out, and then I found this countersunk screw. You can put that in from the back, put the nut down tight, and hopefully that will create an adapter that we can put over the spindles, the reel tables, according to that. So I'm going to go and drill this and put this in, and we'll see if it works. So by using the tip of this sharp knife, I was able to create a dent in there to hopefully center a drill bit. Just drill it, see what happens. There you go. It's very, very thin material. Okay, so there's a hole in it now. The screw only just fits through, which is good. That's what we wanted, so it's a fairly nice fit. I chose a countersunk screw because that way it's not going to take up too much room inside here, because it's only going to slightly engage, unfortunately, because of the amount of room that the screw head takes up. You really need a deeper version of this, or a way of attaching a shaft on the outside. I was thinking about gluing a bit of plastic on it. It's also not ideal that this is a screw thread, because it will have a threaded surface on it, which isn't going to be the best for the going into the chuck on the torque gauge. Really want a nice smooth or slightly knurled surface that it can grab hold of. The screw is going in, and then we'll screw that nut down onto it. Let's see, will that be enough? Oh yeah, there's still enough room in there to engage on the spindle, so that's good. I'll put this nut down on there. Guess if I was fancy I could 3D print something, couldn't I? Could be bothered drawing it up. Problem at the moment is finding time to be bothered to do things. There's too many other things going on. So just do that up nice and tight, and then hopefully it's fairly concentric. Now, there are some instructions in the service manual. It says, remove the top case and cassette cover, so we've done that. Attach the adapter to the torque gauge and blind the take-up and supply phototransistors with opaque paper. So we need to find some opaque paper. It means put something in down there so that it thinks that there's a tape in there. Oh, there we go. I wonder if this, what's we got here? Opaque paper. But normally use a little bit of tape. The thing for getting the soldering iron tip out when it's hot. Okay, we can probably put it into modes now. No. Guess not. Oh, yep. After turning it off and on again. It only goes into rewind. I think that might not be opaque enough. Because, yeah, it's having the same effect now. The only thing it will do and go... Okay, so we've got a torque gauge here. This one goes up to 600 grams per centimeter. It's got with it the inspection certificate from 1988, where they checked the calibration of it. So at 100, it's bang on in the left direction, 102 in right. At 600, 598, 595. I guess it's quite difficult to get a spring that does the right thing the whole way through. There we go. It should go into play mode as well. good. Alright, the first step is looking at the brake torque. So you just have it stopped. Turn the torque gauge in the direction indicated until the brake begins slipping. So it seems you can turn it in both directions, A and B, take up and supply. It says it should go higher than what this goes up to 600, and they say 450 to 800 in the A direction. Doesn't want to grip very well. Okay, let's see. So this is supply in the B direction, 70 to 150. Oh yeah. It's closer to 200. In the A direction it says 450 to 800. Yeah, it's beyond that. It must be nearly 800 then. Okay. And for this one, take up reel in the A direction, 450 to 800. Seems to be around 500 that it starts slipping. And in the other direction, the B direction, 70 to 150. Seems to be about 180. So I guess the brakes are roughly okay. Now, if we look at the take-up, oh yeah, it tells you how to adjust the brakes. There is under there a spring that you can adjust the position of it. The take-up torque in play mode 130 to 180. I wonder if I get a more sensitive gauge. There's another one. This one goes up to 90, so it's a little bit low. Need a middle one. That's for more delicate things. Okay, so we're using this one. It says in play mode 130 to 180. So it's more like 80. Oh, we could use the other one for that, couldn't we? Why did I say that was too little? Does that go up to... It goes up to 100. Alright, let's do the fast forward and rewind, and then we'll try the more sensitive one on the take up to see what it is. It looks like it's around 80. So if we put it into rewind mode... Ooh. Seems like that is more than what that can do. So I guess that's really good then. So it says more than 400. Seems quite rough on this gauge. Fast forward. Again, it's more than what that can do. So the torques for rewind and fast forward are very good on this. Yeah, it feels very good. That's quite surprising for such an old, worn out thing after what we saw on the other machines that we've been playing with that could barely rewind a tape. This one's in remarkably good condition for that. Let's see if we can get a better measurement of the take-up torque with this more sensitive. Okay, so the take-up torque is around 85, which is roughly what we thought by looking at the other one, but it was like below the first major graduation. $85 to $90. But you can see what's doing it. It's this little idler thing down here is responsible for the play, the take-ups that will be coming off the capstan motor. So it's just riding between them, and it's bumping around, probably because the rubber on there is all wrecked, which is why the reading this gives is a little bit jumping about. So that's exciting. So this thing is sort of in spec, doing a bit better than those other ones we've been playing around with. I only just got these torque gauges more recently. a whole bunch of stuff was getting chucked out, so I got hold of some of it. So I also got these fan gauges, different amounts, 0 to 50 grams, 0 to 100 grams, and 0 to 200 grams. That's the highest one I've got. So that's well below what they specify for checking that. So it's got a scale on it, and then this pointer thing which has been sized appropriately, so the amount of force required to bend it is correlated with what it shows on the scale there. So that's what they're talking about here for confirming the pressure force of the pressure roller fan type tension gauge, but it needs to go up to 1,600 grams or more, which, yeah, I don't have one that goes that high. Push it on there and see at what point it lifts the roller off of the capstan. Yeah. Can't even get to it. You need one with a longer actuator on it. Yeah, it's not even close with this. And it's got that little cover thing to go back to keep it safe when you're not using it. So when the tape reaches the end, that was our tape there, the clear leader will come out of the cassette, and that light sensor, there's an infrared LED there, and then there's light sensors at each end, the start and the end sensor, start, end. So once the tape reaches the end, the clear bit will come out, and it will allow the light to pass through the clear tape into the sensor, and then the machine will stop and go into rewind mode. At the moment it's not maintaining rewind because it thinks there's something wrong, so it will rewind all the way until the leader at the other end pokes out, and then it stops because it knows it's at the beginning of the tape. So that's why there's that clear bit at each end. So those light sensors, so using those light sensors, they can tell when the tape reaches the beginning or reaches the end. It's come in such a nice box. A really fancy piece of equipment. Probably cost a lot of money too. Like jewellery type case. A bit more upmarket than just a cardboard box. And we made a neat little adapter. We'll make use of that on future VCRs. It's not very easy to find the service aids for these machines now. They've all been thrown into landfill, I guess, because anyone that was doing VCR servicing would have shut down and everything, or died, and everything they had will just get chucked away. That was a look at the National NV-300 in version, supposedly. Unusually top loading considering the model number, but that's fine. As long as you don't want to stick anything on top of it. And it still works, more or less. The picture's a bit rumpty, the heads are probably worn out, capacitors are leaking. I guess we should look at that a little bit closer just to finish off. It's always good to finish a video multiple times because you keep thinking of more stuff. Let's take a closer look at that board on the bottom, and because it looked like there were capacitor leaking down there, but it was quite dark, so I didn't really take a look too closely. Let's try that again. It's probably going to get scrapped. A lot of these have been, sadly, especially since it's got quite a bit of mechanical damage there. So I reckon that capacitor there is bad shape. There's definitely something juicy going on there. Oh yep, definitely something going on. Let's have a little close-up view at that stuff in there. So we can see there's corrosion on that diode leg. That's probably caused by that little one there leaking. The capacitors of different colors seem to leak more than others, and I think those more purpley ones are more prone to leaking. Well, it also depends on how much ripple current they're dealing with. Are we allowed to look at that? Looks okay. That one doesn't look okay. Okay, you can't correlate it with the color. I just remember in one of the previous machines we looked at, those more purpley looking ones were the only ones that were visibly leaking. but I guess it's more to do with the application of them than possibly. It's too dark. We need light. There's definitely something is dribbled down in there. Yeah, I'm not doing a very good job of this. Anyway, the important thing we were looking at was that the capacitors have leaked, made a mess, and that's where we're at. You can see a dribble mark down there right on the edge of the board, and you can also see the blackening of the board from high temperatures. That heatsink there gets pretty warm. Alright, so there you go. That was a look at, again, another look at the National NV-300 top-loading VCR in a fairly rough state, but still sort of plays back tapes and has remarkably good torque on its rewind, fast forward and play, which is pretty good for a machine of this age and condition. Surprisingly good for a machine of this age and condition. Join us next time and we'll take a look at another VCR probably. There's other bits and pieces we need to take a look at as well. Not sure what exactly it will be next. Because of work and other things have been happening so much, the schedule has stretched out a lot lately. Did it not clip into something? It did clip into stuff. Okay. A little hall sensor thing there so it can tell that that's rotating. Not really sure what the idea is with that. It can't be can it be the memory on the counter? Not sure, because the speed of that will change depending on how far through the tape it is. I don't think there's any counter memory on this. Getting the front back on, you gotta hook it in to get those you have to hook it that much to get the knobbies to show through. Great, nice VCR.